In honor of the final Season 5 and its 1-year anniversary, I thought I'd make a cool little tribute video for what is ultimately my favourite FPS game of all time. And in all honesty, the only game I play at the moment. I'll be cutting this video into chapters, explaining each integral factor that makes up my love for this game. So, ahead of time, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy, and don't tell me you're fed up of hearing this and you'll subscribe if you want to, but we all know you forget to click that goddamn button. You're not fooling anyone. So, I'm Cryptid and I make videos of things I'm passionate about, and let's delve into this awesome experience. The Finals is a fast-paced, class-based shooter with a huge emphasis on destruction. It's based inside of a game show where the maps are supposedly generated to be what are essentially gladiator pits for we the players to battle in. They integrate this idea into the game through the countless simulation elements. For example, breaking a chair will make it dissolve into nothing as opposed to break like every other game. There's also two notable commentators that report on your team's every move, Scotty and June, the former of the two hinting at possibly being an ex-contendant of the very show he's bound to comment on. These two deviants spice up the experience through the banter they show in the background of your performance, and work in tandem with each other to instill that raw, on-air vibe into the player. The main premise of the game, through many differently interpreted forms, is simply put, grab a cash box, run around with it, chuck it in a vault, defend said vault until the deposit is complete. A very basic idea that isn't too intensive on the brain, which, as you could have guessed, piqued the interest of over 12 million players on launch. People flowed into this game, and when I say flowed, I mean flowed. The simplicity of the concept aided massively in its appeal, as new players could sideline their understanding of the objectives and all that, and essentially go into autopilot in that regard and focus instead on mastering the gameplay mechanics, the most important part of the game. The final centers around three main classes: Light, a shifty, rapid base with low health; Heavy, a slow, tanky beast with high health; and Medium, the soft middle ground between the two. Each of these classes come with their own individual weapons, gadgets, and abilities to be used in game. And, of course, as with your average live service game, there's a huge array of cosmetics to choose from in the shop, and a battle pass if you're really feeling generous. Yeah, thanks for that, Fortnite. Whew, there we go. A main summary of the game shouldn't be too long, it's just a short section. Now, let's delve into the first of many aspects that make this game such a joy to pick up and play whenever I and many others get bored. Ah yes, as I said before, the Finals relies heavily on destruction physics, a factor that absolutely toned its appeal on launch. Every building, container, decoration, player was destructible, and quite honestly, Embark Studios, the indie team behind this game, were essentially mastering the genre right out of the gate. The only other contender they had for an FPS game with destruction physics was Battlefield, which is far from indie. So actually that is a great point, not to toot my own horn. Not only were they reintroducing this aspect of gameplay that had only been pioneered once or twice previously, but that it was an indie studio doing this, rising up and rivaling the top dogs. What can I say? Gamers love a good success story, well, the same ones at least, and actually wanted to see this thing through and give it a chance, and that they did. The thing is, the physics present in this game were intricately designed to handle these large-scale simulations in real time, without the loss of frames. Unlike older games, you know, your Transformers the games, the destruction physics in the Finals were not predetermined. There's none of this swapping out one model for a damaged one malarkey. It's all calculated in that moment and reacts quickly to player input. This type of stuff's usually called dynamic/procedural destruction, if you were wondering. I had to search that up. Furthermore, the Finals has this awesome balance between detailed, realistic physics with excellent structural integrity and a smooth memory-saving experience. Things explode into what seems like a million pieces, holes in walls seem perfectly accurate to the damage that should have been caused based on your perception, the debris looks fresh and not like someone just went over there and slapped a decal where you hit. It's visually stunning. But, of course, there's a catch. The devs worked tirelessly across the development of the game, utilizing so many different development tools and tricks. Also, they could have these physics that look beautiful on the outside to us players, but are secretly using little optical illusions to do so while savoring processing power. It's honestly a marvel in design and development, and interesting to see techniques used primarily by huge teams being implemented here. In addition to this, I'm just going to say what we're all thinking. Destroying shit makes you feel like a badass. From chucking grenades through windows to priming gas canisters that swoop into buildings at max speed, this game's use of destruction is a huge enhancer of the experience. And not just that, destruction is integral to strategy too. You're not just shooting to kill, but to change the map itself. You see some dummies with the cash out, it'd be suicide for you to jump in there and try and 3v1, so you're better off railing your bullets into a canister ahead of them to knock them down a peg. Another example, using the breach charge to pop a hole in the wall so you get an ambush on your enemies. Or the deadliest of them all. Bash up a zip line so your mates have to take the boring old stairs up to the top. You're a prick for that, by the way. And thus, there's your integration. Destruction adds this wonderful level of depth to your strategy, and weirdly enough, critical thinking skills. I mean, there's about as many things to think about as your average FPS, but the way you go about countering them is so varied in comparison. Not only that, destruction is so effective at furthering that immersion factor the finals so wonderfully displays. The combination of buildings collapsing left and right as good old Scotty and June hype things up, the soundtrack rising in the background, it's just so awesome. It truly makes you feel like you're in a game show, since where else would you see full city sets rigged to blow and explosives hanging around ready to be detonated? It gives that wacky, over-exaggerated vibe that wouldn't work anywhere else other than this setting. COD couldn't add these type of physics, it seemed too unrealistic. But here, the idea that this is a simulated environment embedded in another simulated environment is a meta spin that somehow enhances the immersion factor despite the cartooniness of the physics. This level of chaos adds tension and makes you question whether the building you're standing on right now will hold for even 30 seconds. It hits that sweet spot, and the chaos is understandable as game shows tend to make things more energetic and hyped to engage the audience, similar to what I'm doing right now. But truly, what sets this game apart in the physics department? Battlefield pioneered large-scale destructibility, and games like Red Faction popularized the environmental destructibility. So what gives? Well, our good old buddy The Finals takes it to another level by combining the two into this conglomerate mess of fast-paced gameplay and player freedom. No two matches played the same as the maps evolve dynamically. Instead of a linear sequence of destruction, players actively shape the environment in real time to suit their complex strategies. So yeah, overall, the destruction in this game is awesome and thrilling to say the least. Next on the list is an equally important, hell, even more important factor to this game's mastery, and without it, we wouldn't even be able to move. Now, the damn movement! An essential building block in making games that, quite honestly, doesn't get the praise it deserves. You have games like Celeste and Ghost Runner that use these intricately designed skill-based movement systems that are easy to learn but hard to master. Ultimately, movement in a game is the be-all end-all, and without it, the experience would be completely different and oftentimes completely unplayable. In the realm of our main focus, Titanfall is a movement shooter that absolutely defined the genre with its exhilarating movement systems and complex moves, which, as you could have guessed, The Finals emulates greatly. This game is extremely fast-paced, and that's mostly down to the movement. There's a whole range of moves, from basic running to dashing, sliding, zip lines, and even launch pads. The Finals is built for rapid combat and literal breathtaking plays. A part of this is due to the design of the maps. In this game, the maps are orchestrated in a way that they prioritize and maximize vertical movement. This is done through the array of multi-layered structures, rooftops, and imprinted booths scattered around the arenas. Movement isn't simply limited to running and gunning, it's solely about thinking in 3 dimensions. Huge open spaces are used to maximize momentum when hopping from one area of the arena to another, ensuring that you don't go flying into a metal bar and lose your flow. These spaces are great for bouncing around in combat too. As a light, no dirt, I find it so much more challenging to battle in these open areas, but when I do, man does it feel good. You're constantly bouncing around, building up that momentum while avoiding the enemy's line of fire. These open spaces keep you on your toes, as if something could pop out at you at any moment, which relates to movement, since the constant fear of being exposed forces the player to think creatively and capitalize on finding the quickest way to their objective, which is usually a door or a window they can smash through to avoid being sniped out of nowhere. But oh man, it does not stop there. There's also the complete antithesis of open areas, enclosed areas. The Finals has this great mix between large open spaces and small intimate corridors. The game itself is built around alternating alternating between the two. One minute you're on a rooftop building up momentum, and next you use that power to leap off the edge and into the tight window of a cluttered house, narrowly avoiding your opponents, yet still on edge to not lose your flow through stupidity. These transitions are always present at the right times. Whenever there's a rooftop, there's usually a window not too far away, keeping the world varied yet practical, prioritizing speed and safety in equal amounts. Another thing these spaces do well though is the idea of keeping the tension by passing on the worry of being killed to now keeping the momentum. Without momentum, you put yourself in a dangerous position to be killed, and when you're killed, well, you're dead, so you can't build up momentum. It seems like, despite the world being physically empty, the way everything works in tandem to praise movement makes it feel so alive and dynamic. Now, the elephant in the room, the classes. Of course, the movement is vastly different between the three. Lights have these fittingly lightning fast speeds with high jumps and quick dodges, obviously being the target in terms of movement. They also have tools such as grappling hooks or quick dash, which we'll get to later, but yet again, they take movement into account. And as you'd expect, these factors make lights fit for hit and run tactics, speedy swoops to steal a cash out, and often confusing heavies who eventually end up spamming the flamethrower to flush you out. Medium, on the other hand, takes a more balanced approach. I mean, the clue's in the name. They're not as fast as lights, but still nimble enough to take advantage of cover speedily and traverse the terrain in an efficient manner. They also have access to mobility gadgets, for example the jump pad, which is a great way of creating more unique routes to blast their fellow teammates to the next objective. So of course they're absolutely fit for versatility and balanced maneuverability, something definitely not present in our final class. And what is that final class? Well, heavies, heavies, heavies. The laughing stock of the finals. These guys are absolute tanks and are equipped with slow movement, sacrificing speed for sheer power. You know, if you think about it, these guys are kind of like the antichrist of this chapter of the video. I mean, they go against pretty much everything I preach about the maps being built for speed, as these bastards just break it all down with their vast arsenal of arsonist weapons. Speaking of which... Ah yes, weaponry. Without it, any FPS game turns into a live service vector with an item shop. The finals is more than just movement, and no matter how great the momentum is coded or how advanced the physics engine is, without an enemy to run after or an RPG to be blasted, they become obsolete. As I mentioned previously, each class has its own set of weaponry and gadgets. Lights are presented with rapid fire weapons such as SMGs, pistols and the like. Their arsenal is built around the reflexes, utilizing the idea of a hit and run tactic by combining quick reload times with high mobility while ADS, and that is also present in the more miscellaneous items such as saws and throwing knives. Their gadgets consist of ways to keep themselves concealed or on the move, from vanishing bombs that shroud you in invisibility to gateways that allow you to swiftly teleport from one place to another. Needless to say, lights are built for speed, even in the weapons department. On top of that, their specializations, which is essentially a special ability, take on this idea too. As of writing, lights have 3 specializations to choose from: a cloaking device, which is similar to the vanishing bomb but it can be toggled on and off at will, a grappling hook, a single-use item which propels the player to great heights in seconds, and finally the evasive dash, which teleports players a few feet in front of them upon use. Now as for medium, these folks are once again the balance, with assault rifles, shotguns and semi-auto rifles at their disposal. Their weaponry, much like the stats of the class itself, prioritize versatility in battle. Similar to light, though mediums have some close range weapons too, such as the dual blades and riot shield. Gadgets are centered around physical objects that act more as an extension of themselves, where lights simply chuck their gadgets or shoot them, mediums actively place theirs down and they work essentially on their own. There's turrets, mines, placeable zip lines, the whole lot of objects that work independently to take down foes alone. Medium does have some fun specializations though, with the aforementioned guardian turret, a healing beam to help out fellow teammates, and the greatest of them all, a dematerializer. This ability allows mediums to temporarily ghostify an area, silently opening a line of fire without all the faff needed to blow it up and cause a ruckus. And trust me, man is this useful 90% of the time. The other 10% is when your mate decides to chuck himself through a wall and blow your cover. Not the best possible outcome there, but anyway, heavies, man, have a plethora of weaponry to mess around with. Their weapons are tanky. Flamethrowers, LMGs, and grenade launchers dominate here. Not to mention the melee weapons available, spears and sledgehammers, perfect for demolishing not only enemy players, but the entire environment around them. A skilled heavy cuts through walls like paper, and with the addition of crazy gadgets such as the dome shield, barricade, and various mines, they definitely have one of the most destructive arsenals. Though it's mainly based on keeping keeping things defensive with countless ways to keep their team protected while providing a great offense on the side. They also have the most choice out of everyone when it comes to specializations. There's the Charge Slam, a powerful sprint of death capable of turning the arena to dust, shields to defend themselves, goo guns to build defense mechanisms, and most recently, a damn claw able to hold enemies in a specific area for a couple of seconds. Needless to say, if you get caught in one of them, it's over for you. Overall, the weaponry in this game is expansive, to say the least, and awesome to mess around with, especially to new players experimenting with the ropes. And here's my honest opinion, the best thing about all these weapons, despite what some of the hardcore players would argue, is that they all have a semblance of balance between them. Of course, there'll be loopholes here and there and fixes to be made in the future, but overall, I think Embark has done a great job at averaging this wide weapon span. Lights obviously use precision weapons to excel in flanking and particularly surprise attacks. This is combated by heavies with their area denial weapons that shine through in not only defensive abilities, but offense in the way they chop through the environment like it's nothing. Mediums, to round things off, have weapons that adapt to their situation, capable of being mastered in both long range and close quarters combat. I'm super impressed by the variety in this game, yet how well things were handled in the balancing side of things. But that doesn't mean your opinion doesn't matter. If you've got a gripe with us sword lights, because everyone does, or the flamethrower heavies, just go ahead and give feedback via email or through their contact window. And in addition to that, discuss with fellow players, but don't be a dick and argue. Everyone's just trying to enjoy the game in their own ways, so respect that. But after that weird moment of me just being sentimental, I do have more to say about the weapons. We've previously been through the destruction aspects of the game and how physics are integrated to create a cohesive, enjoyable experience. Though how does the weaponry complement that? Well, weapons in the finals are specifically built to shape the battlefield in vastly different ways. Pyro grenades fly through windows, leaving ash on the walls to reflect the damage taken by the infrastructure, and frags do a similar thing, yet they have more debris and dust scattered around the area, truly emphasizing that feeling of a war-torn environment. On the flip side, RPGs tear through buildings and leave more than just debris, more like a conglomerate pile of rubble if you ask me. These more destructive weapons can be used strategically to create new paths or open new areas to flank enemies, clearly shaping the map to the advantage of whoever knows how to use it. Not only that, weapons actively create things as well as destroy. Goo artillery, for example, which sounds awfully weird to say, build entirely new areas such as boxes to prevent enemies from entering while you defend or steal the cash out. It's an awesome moment of duality that opens this game to be so much more, with the amount of various unique ways of going at a situation making every gameplay different from the last. So much so it's notable yet not immersion breaking, if you know what I mean? Yeah. Speaking of strategy, I'll conclude this section with the idea that weapons can work with each other in your team's loadouts. Take this example, you can combine a goo grenade with a pyro grenade to make this explosive mess of fiery torture to trap your enemies in. Dash works greatly with the sword to get that extra boost and dart around enemies at top speed, and interestingly, the pyro grenade and gas grenade don't work together, as one simply cancels the other out. Pretty sick if you ask me. Very, very good job there, Embark. This circles back to my earlier point on how everything feels fresh and there's constantly new ways to be conspired on how to obtain your objectives, and without the multitude of weapon options and combos, this wouldn't be as potent. But you know what is potent? The sweet smell of money! Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And with that, I bear gifts, but here's the catch. You have to buy them off me. How about that? Cosmetics grant no practical advantage, yet you can't help but loathe over how cool it'll look on your skin for a week before you inevitably get bored and buy something else. But hey, there's no time to complain. That's the formula for live service free-to-play games at the moment, so deal with it. Again, thanks to Fortnite. And Call of Duty probably, but Fortnite's the big one. But anyway, I wholeheartedly believe that despite all the negatives that come with cosmetic purchases, the final finals does it best. Obviously, that's the point of the video. Firstly, and most obviously, the character models are largely universal. Some say they're ugly, but shut the fuck up and stop being negative, you prats. And with that fact comes a whole new different way of going about character customization. The player can choose between a masculine and feminine body type for each class, all of which are compatible with every cosmetic in the game, which is pretty neat. The one thing the finals does do that I really enjoy is that there's an absolute overflow of different I meant to cut in there and say customization options, but I couldn't say it, man. It's hard to speak sometimes. And to be honest, if I went through all these in great detail, we'd be here for hours. So I'll sum it up by saying, here's my character. Imagine that I can change every core aspect of it to fit my liking. Hopefully that helps you gather the image I'm going for here. So yeah, for the character itself, it's mostly average stuff, like Fortnite with a few more options, but where it really shines is the weapon customization. Each weapon has at least one unique skin, whether that's something as simple as a weapon wrap or as appearance changing as an entire remodel. You can have grenades that look like baubles, pyro grenades where the liquid is now pure magma, swords that are modeled as sticks or baseball bats. The possibilities are endless. Embark could and will continue to keep adding these skins, and they'll never get boring or samey. Moving on, there's weapon charms, some of which serve an actual purpose, others are just there to look cool, but either way, they're awesome little trinkets. On screen right now, as you can see, is a counter that tallies up your kills as you eliminate players, something that doesn't benefit you in any physical sense, but sits there in case you ever want to give it a glance. Next up are the stickers, which act similar to charms, though don't wobble around as much. They don't provide a different experience per se, but they are there to make your weapons more flashy, which I can't argue with. And finally, the weapon animations. One of the coolest things I've noticed when it comes to customization, to be honest. There's different purchasable and unlockable sequences depending on your weapon and also the action being done. For example, there's an animation when you select the weapon in your inventory, when you inspect it, reload it. Hell, there's even an entirely different one for when you reload on an empty mag, all of which can be modified. So no, cosmetics aren't limited to appearance. Oftentimes the coolest ones are the ones you'll end up purchasing that are there to make you feel special and awesome when you play with them. Ultimately, these features exist for two reasons. One, to make money, and two, to diversify the experience, and I simply cannot argue with that, especially after the next point. In the finals, cosmetics never, run out, disappear? Basically, there's never a point where you just can't buy these items. The in-game shop acts more of a highlight reel or a display case, where the new releases and seasonal festivities can be showcased in a dedicated menu. The shop resets after 3 to 5 days, though those items don't go anywhere. While you're browsing what's called the contestant menu, you can come across these items for sale there. Better yet, if you select an item that was previously part of a bundle when it was on showcase, you can still buy that bundle for the discount it gives. A really cool feature that I think more games should implement. There's no real FOMO in this game. The only things in fear of missing are the battle passes. Other than that, everything's open to be purchased at a later date. That, of course, comes with some exceptions. The battle passes, like I said, are only available for a certain length of time. But what I like about the one in the finals is that everything is constructed perfectly. And what do I mean by that? Well, the battle pass is available for 100 days until it goes off sale and comes with a variety of contracts or challenges. If you follow these challenges or just play the game, eventually you'll reach the final tier. I play for around 2.5 hours a day, give or take, and I'm completely fine and have never experienced any issues leveling up. Better yet, the battle pass contains the exact amount of multi-bucks, the finals in-game currency, to purchase the next battle pass, which of course means you only have to buy one battle pass to afford all the future ones. This is in theory though, as the addition of other cosmetics may cause you to spend your credits early, but there's never really a push to do this, if you know what I mean. Like I said, there's only a few things in the shop at a time, unlike Fortnite with hundreds upon hundreds of crap in theirs, and the rest of the stuff you have to go out of your way to find, so I don't think that's too bad if you ask me. Another outlier here though is the occasional seasonal items. They return at the same time each year. I know this since although the finals is barely a year old, the Christmas stuff from when the game first launched is back in the shop now. That's what I assume though, since there's not really been enough instances of that happening to be sure, but here's to hoping they'll bring back the old stuff at specific times of the year to just fit the event. To be fair though, as someone who's drained their life into Fortnite for 8 years, I can't necessarily complain about the small semblance of FOMO here and there. That pretty much rounds off this section. I know I missed out on discussing the emotes and expressions and all that. You know, here's an unpopular thing, but I actually value the viewer's time and you're the viewer, so yeah, as much as my own, I value you, so don't want to waste anything. And with that, news section incoming! Alright, I could rail off all the reasons I love this game in all these intricate sections, but as I say, time is fleeting. Throughout this video, I've mainly discussed the game mechanics themselves and some opinions slipped in here and there. Although this entire video has summarised the finals in a positive light, I feel a purely opinionated section is in order. Listen, I'm 14 and naturally I haven't really been in many life-altering situations. I appreciate where I am and I'm grateful for all the things I'm able to do and all that stuff, but I will say I did have a bit of a new experience this time last year that I would like to share. In short, I overthunk. If that's even a word. Basically, I got a little too caught up in my own anxiety and things turned sour. So, as overwhelmed as I was and my little mind not being able to handle it, I opened Steam hoping to find escape in some form. And there it was, December 8th, 2023, or 9th, I forget, but the Steam homepage presented to me a game titled The Finals, an action-packed FPS shooter filled with manic destruction and mass strategy. And the best part, it was free! Seeing a little bit of semblance there, it's got the same name and the same mechanics as the video and the title. Yep, you bet I downloaded that bad boy and opened it as soon as it downloaded, and I hopped into my first game and fucking loved it! Addicted from day one, and for an entire week I had that escape. Naturally, non-stop playing caused boredom, but still, I always found a way to hop on once a week to see what was up. Of course, with that experience in retrospect, there's some bias there. I found it in an odd place and it clicked with me through that, though I genuinely do think this game is a masterpiece and it does deserve your time. The combat is awesome and thrilling to say the least. There's something about darting across rooftops and smashing through windows, gun blazing in the same breath that makes things special. The destruction is beautiful and downright breathtaking at times, and the people on there are either wonderful or Russian. Either way, the teamwork is always there, even if 90% of people don't have voice chat activated. I adore the movement system, as evident by the entire section about it, but I'm just in awe of how fluid everything is, and every aspect of the system flows well together so wonderfully. As a sword-light main, momentum is my jam. A quick dash into lunge, jump into slide is awfully satisfying. And yeah, feel free to drop your sword-light opinions down below. And any fellow sword-lights, you know, comment, please. Also, the trailers for this game speak for themselves. Friggin' hype. The premise of the game itself isn't to be ignored either. It brings a smile to my face every time I hop into a game and hear the commentators going at it, and the arbitrary game show sound effects such as huge booms and air horns going off. A swift combination between realism and cartoony humor. I mean, you've got these lifelike textures and models, and then just a goofy mess of sounds ripped straight out of Looney Tunes thrown in there like it's nothing. I just can't get over the way they bridge strategy and fun, and many other factors that don't work together on paper, but somehow managed to here. The customization is fun, and the severe lack of FOMO in comparison to other giants in the space is a breath of fresh air to me personally. But anyway, I could rant like this for hours. I just felt this intense urge to create this video as sort of a passion project to look back at this odd year-old nostalgia I have for something so trivial to the average person. So yes, I may do a follow-up to this at some point, perhaps a rant on my second channel, Sloptid, the place for all things slop, of course. And yeah, on screen right now is my great analysis on how games that aren't so huge on the outside somehow keep us coming back for more, so go check that out. Also, Twitch down below. I might stream it on Twitch. Maybe I'll rant on Twitch or do it on Sloptid. I don't. Either way, it'll be there if it ever happens. So yeah, stay positive and Merry goddamn Christmas. Goodbye.